Hello, my name is Lewis and welcome to Gathering the Magic. Today we're looking at the top 10 best Mardu commanders in MTG. Coming in at number 10 we have Lysia Sanguine Tribune. From Commander 17, this vampire soldier with first strike and lifelink costs 1 less to cast for each life you gain this turn. You can pay 5 life to put 3 +1/+1 counters on her, doing so only on your turn and once per turn. As is expected, these decks go super life gain heavy, getting in creatures to gain you life, a big bad bunch of enchantments to go life gain heavy, and even getting in means of removal that will also get you in the big life. With all that life, you can use go-to cards like Bolas's Citadel to get out your whole board from your library to gain you a big advantage. Aetherflux Reservoir to insta-kill some of your opponents, or even pad out Lysia to the max. And make sure you have all that protection to have some ways to make sure that damage goes through and get some easy 21 commander damage to your opponents. With life gain being such a strong option in Commander, this is a deck I've played against many times where the commander never even hits the field. Win some games without even playing your commander.
That doesn't sound right, but I don't know enough about stars to dispute it.
Before we get on to number 9, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe down below for all things MTG. Subscribing is completely free to do and it helps our channel grow and grow. You can also help support us by signing up to Card Market and use our affiliate code when you join. You love to see it. Next on up we have Zergo Helm Smasher. From Khans of Tarkir, this Orc warrior with haste attacks each combat if able, has indestructible as long as it's your turn, and whenever a creature dealt damage by Zergo this turn dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Zergo. 21 is the magic number for commander damage, so decks tend to be loaded with all that equipment. Ones with trample to get that damage through, and plenty that will give Zergo the dreaded double strike. Cards like Arc Bond and Chain Reaction are key. If played on our turn, Zergo is indestructible, so clear the board, keep Zergo and he'll get even stronger too. On a similar note, packing your deck with ball wipes are essential thanks to that Zergo indestructibility. But maybe get a few white protection staples in, just in case Zergo becomes the target of the group when it's not your turn. A super powerful commander, and any that has that 7 power makes it an instant threat on the commander table.
Too scary.
For the next Mardu commander we have again Arcanum Weaver. From Commander Legends, this human wizard is all about those enchantments. Starting off we're going to have plenty of cheap to play enchantments. The cheaper to play, the more we can get out, and the more we can have as sacrificial fodder for Gen. Another important part in this deck is getting plenty of ways to get our expensive to cast enchantments into the graveyard. We can pack in ways to mill ourselves, those classic looting cards to double down, discard and get some card draw, or just have such a stacked hand that we have to discard. When the time comes to activate Gen, we have an abundance of expensive and powerful enchantments that we can get onto the field for only 3 mana. I've always wanted a cheaper way to play Depta's Knell. Finally, get in those pro enchantment loving cards for that extra bit of synergy and you'll have a deck that once it starts popping off will be hard to stop. Next on up on the Mardu list we have Alesha, who smiles at death. Originally from Fate Reforged, this human warrior with first strike says when she attacks you may pay white or black twice. If you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the field, tapped and attacking. Let's go straight in here with the Gathering the Magic Card of the Deck award. This time it's going straight to Master of Cruelties. Make sure this bad boy is in your graveyard, attack with Alesha, fetch out Master of Cruelties. With Alesha's trigger, Master enters tapped and attacking, causing target opponent to go down to 1 life. Attack after with Alesha and that's an instant opponent kill. Other strategies include throwing in those cards to get those key pieces straight in the graveyard so you can bring them out and hurt your opponents. As well as all those creatures that have great ETB effects from removal to ramp to more sack outlets and everything in between. With so many powerful cards and popular EDH staples that have that power 2 or less, this is a surprisingly powerful commander that you could build to surprise your opponents at the table. Just missing out on the top half, it's Extus Auric Overlord. From Strixhaven, this human warlock with double strike says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, return target non-legendary creature from your graveyard to your hand. Its flip side Awaken the Blood avatar says as an additional cost to cast, sack any number of creatures, costing 2 less to cast for each creature sacked this way. Each opponent sacks a creature. You create a 3/6 avatar token with haste that when it attacks, deals 3 damage to each opponent. These decks run heavily around those tokens. We're creating an army of tokens that can not only go wide, but can also be cheap sacrificial fodder to our DFC sorcery, creating loads of 3/6 avatars that can slowly punch down on our opponents. we're going to be sacrificing loads of creatures, so throw in plenty of cards that reward us for creature deaths, things that will gain us life, treasure, or even some tasty card draw. Finally, if we want those infinite creature tokens, there's the famous infinite duo of Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame that rather I go on for 2 minutes explaining what they do, I'll post a nice explanation here for you to screen grab. I know, I'm so kind. For the next Mardu commander we have Ishiin, 2 heavens as 1. From this year's Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, this human samurai says if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. This is a deck we've done a very budget brew on in the past, so if you want to see that in great detail, watch that after this video. These decks throw in all of those attacking creators. From Krenko and beyond, there are loads of cards in Magic that will create you even more creatures when you attack. If creatures aren't for you, then there are millions of cards that will create you other things when you attack, whether that is treasure, making your opponents discard, or even getting you some more of that essential ramp. These decks tend to go enchantment heavy, with plenty around those that have attack loving triggers, giving counters to your creatures, draining your opponents for a bit of life, and even some lovely extra damage. Already a super popular commander, and you can see why. It brings double the danger, it brings double the danger.
I see what you did there.
Narrowly missing out on the bronze medal spot is Sir Quinn, Hero of Ashvale. From Throne of Eldraine, this human knight with Vigilance and Menace says when an equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and lose a life. An equipment you control have equipped knight 0. As expected, these decks go super equipment heavy, throwing in all of that dangerous equipment to boost, beef and help destroy our opponents, including throwing in all of those equipment loving cards to cheapen them even further or even cast them as though they had flash. Gwyn decks tend to want to make the most of that knight 0 equip cost, so throw in every knight under the sun you can find. Always typically common within those Mardu colours, this is not only easy to do, but plenty of those knights tend to really synergise well with each other. One of the simplest but potentially most powerful commander strategies going, knights, equip, attack, win. Knight Tribal is not to be taken lightly. Next on this Mardu list we have Queen Marquesa. Originally from Conspiracy Take the Crown, this human assassin with Death Touch and Haste says when she ETBs, you become the monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent is the monarch, put a 1/1 assassin token with Death Touch and Haste onto the field. This deck revolves all around that monarchy, and in case Marquesa isn't around, thankfully recent sets like Commander Legends have printed an abundance of monarch loving cards. These decks also run fairly stacksy, throwing in all those cards that will really make your opponents think twice about attacking you, and of course any of those cards that will make you ask your opponents if they'll pay the 1 or 2. And with all those ways to stop our opponents from attacking, including that classic removal, we'll have millions of upkeep monarch loving triggers that will strengthen our board even more and fast track our route to the victory royale. I would say monarch is up there with my top 3 favourite mechanics in MTG. What are your 3 favourites? Let me know in the comments below. Runner up and the second best Mardu commander is Kalia of the Vast. From Commander 2011, this human cleric with flying says when she attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon or dragon creature from your hand onto the field, tapped and attacking that opponent. These decks are typically filled with everything you'd imagine, dragons, a boatload of demons, and more often than not, the biggest grouping tends to lean into those angels that are so common, especially narrowed down with those Boros colours. Angels are one of the most synergistic tribes within all of Magic, so if you manage to get a load out thanks to Kalia, then they could be beefing each other up, making each other indestructible, and so much more. To make the most of Kalia's attack-loving trigger, these decks tend to have an above average amount of extra combat phases, so make sure to stick those cards in there too. Also, Kalia is one of the most popular commanders in the history of Magic. She will become the target very quickly, so throw in all those bits of protection you have lying around. Also, what else happens to be a demon? Master of Cruelties. Winner and the best Mardu commander is Edgar Markov. Another one from Commander 2017, this Vampire Knight with First Strike says whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar is on the field or in the command zone, create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. And when he attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. According to EDH Rec, this is one of the most popular commanders of the last 2 years. And this deck, of course, exclusively leans into those vampires. Another well-rounded, synergistic tribe that have vampires to boost up other vampires, vampires that give other vampires first strike, and vampires that can make even more vampires. And if we're looking towards Vampire life gain and drain, as they're historically known to do, we have the Infinite Wincons in Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood and Veto, and I'm sure there are other ways out there to drain your opponents for the win. A very expensive to buy card at $65, which actually is nothing compared to its Judge 2011 version, which sits at nearly $200. That is crazy. A ridiculously powerful commander, thanks to that eminence that lets it take shape from the command zone. This is genuinely a commander I think I may build around in the future, although I think it will have to be a proxy job. There we have it, that is the Mardu list. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe down below for all things MTG. Check out our link tree in the description below for all of our social media and affiliate links. For now though, I'm all tapped out, so I'll see you in the next video.